So the warm up here is going to be kind of hip centric. So I'm going to put my weight on one leg. So I'll say left, just to that's usually easier for you. Yeah, and then I'm going to step my right, the ball of the foot forward just a little bit, a few inches. Yeah, and then I'm gonna waggle the foot and do it towards the camera for you too to see. Yeah, yeah, side to side, so that my foot is kind of doing that a little bit. And what I want to do is just be loose enough in the moving leg that I can feel this up into the hip. If I'm not loose, it's really kind of ankle and calf maybe. So I want to think of it as kind of, yeah, exactly. And now I'm going to do the same thing with that foot just a little bit to the rear. So it's just kind of on the ball of the foot and the weight's still here and just a little back and forth. And I'm just trying to get the looseness to be felt into the hip, maybe into the butt and the inguinal crease. I'll just come back. You can restabilize if you need. Now I'm going to step out just a little bit wider than I have been, but again, without weight, just the ball of the foot. So I'll face the camera just a little bit further, ball of the foot down. And then I'm going to go up and down a little bit. No weight, right. So all the weight's on the foundation leg. And since this is so soft, when I straighten the leg, it doesn't tip me, right? If I was rigid, straightening the leg would tip my body. So I want to feel that I can get this softness to kind of propagate from the foot to the ankle to the knee to the hip. And kind of what I'm going a little fast. It doesn't really matter the pace. I find that going a little faster than you might think of Tai Chi as going helps people soften in this exercise, but it could be done slower. And then you can restabilize or relieve the pressure on your foundation leg if you want. Now we're going to do the same thing just from our starting position, and perhaps even a bit narrower if you like. Right. So I'm just lifting the heel, committing my weight to the one side, yeah, and working my way. So your weight's on your left leg, yeah, and you're just setting the ball of the foot down, or really just lifting the heel, I guess. And I'm just kind of pulsing the leg, almost like if there's a button under my heel and I just keep depressing the button. And the focus here is on maintaining softness through the major joints of the leg. That's what I want. So if I'm thinking of pressing a button, I don't picture a button that has a lot of resistance or tension, where I'd have to, yeah. So I feel more like this with my legs. And I'm trying to get that circulation and looseness all the way into the hip joint. So for me, I tend to do this and really think deeply into the hip to kind of visualize and feel the joint rather than just the musculature around the hip. Good. Now we're gonna do a little stepping. Okay. Yeah. Commit your weight to one leg. Lift the heel of the other leg. Place the heel of the other leg forward. Place the sole of the foot down. Then I want to think about the knee moving to a position above the ball of the foot. So I'm thinking about this knee moving over the ball of the foot, which of course will take my body weight. and then lift the heel. Yeah, if you need a little, there you go. So then I'm lifting the heel of the rear leg, and then set the foot down, heel first. So I'll do it in profile. So I've committed my weight forward, lift the heel, and then set the heel down.
So the leg that's bearing the weight is that, I think you're bent a little bit.
Bent in the knee, correct.
That's where
Exactly right.
This bending this and taking the weight
Mm-hmm.
on this bearing. Right?
Correct. And you have the cane if you want to help with the weight bearing too. And then set down.
So I'm just coming forward.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then we can go through the same practice, which is to set the foot down and then think about my placing my knee over the ball of the foot.
That sort of takes the weight off.
Right, and now all the weight's in the front leg, which has a bent knee. And in Tai Chi, that's something we'll always see. Whenever the weight's in the foot, the knee is bent. Or whenever the weight's in the leg, the knee is bent. So I want to feel that when I came forward, it wasn't my shoulders first, my head first. I want to feel like my knee is leading me over the ball of the foot, so I feel vertical. But I'm drawn forward because my knee moved to the ball of the foot. So my weight has shifted, as you noted, off of the rear leg. So I'm here. And then I'm going to lift the heel and then set the heel down slightly forward, not very far. Good. And then the sole of the foot. And then once the sole's down, then I'm going to shift and put the knee over the ball of the foot. You probably want your cane more forward here. There you go, because that's where you want the cane on when you put your weight on your right. So shift. Yeah. And this is going to be harder on your knee when your foot's further from you. So on your right side, when you have your right foot forward, if it's farther forward, it's going to be harder for you to bear the weight. Right, but it's more stable because your feet are wider base. So that's the kind of balance to strike. If you just step to here, it'll be easier in terms of sharing the weight between the feet, but it's harder for balance. And so if you just did this, it's a recipe for falling at some point. But on the other hand, doing this probably means you won't practice it much because it hurts too much. So for now, I'm going to recommend just a pretty small step. And if it doesn't go very far forward, maybe you can scooch it a tiny bit wider, because then again, that extends your base without extending your length, and that can work. So we're shifting to your right now, right? So knee over the ball of the foot, and I feel like my spine is vertical, and now my heel comes up. And at this point, when the heel comes up, I feel very soft in all these joints. So again, it's not like a sprinter that's pushing and everything's tight in the leg. It's very, very soft. And then I step. And then the foot goes down. And then I bring the knee to the ball of the foot.
That's hard for me.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things the PT guy does is he has me stand like this, and then he pushes me to see how my balance works. I mean, he's holding me so I don't fall. And he doesn't let me go too far, but he
sees how you adjust.
Yeah.
Try pushing him, see how he likes it. Just, as soon as you come in, just
he's a lot bigger.
or trip him,
A little younger.
Okay, so
I was able to do the was doing sitting, extending the leg out.
Yeah.
This exercise.
Yep. Yep.
I couldn't do that pretty well. I think pretty close to what you told me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
As I could remember. For both legs. The other way around.
So I'm gonna give you an analogy this time that maybe you keep, maybe you don't. But the value of a paintbrush, the bristles part of the brush, is basically twofold. One, it's flexible, and two, it holds what it takes up paint. It will hold on to what it takes up, I guess. And so I want to kind of think of that soft, loose leg as the paintbrush or the bristles. So I'll shift my weight to one leg and lift the heel. And it's at that point I lift the heel that I can just feel, if a breeze came, I kind of just feel like it just, like that's how my leg feels right now. And then I place the brush on the canvas, let it more of the brush take, and then it, I press the brush into the canvas, and that's how it releases, right? Into the ground. It releases into the ground. So my consciousness, my intention to step, my readiness to exercise and practice is the paint. Like that's taken up by the leg. I find the place that makes sense, not just artistic sense, but good balance sense. And then I feel a transfer, not just of my weight from here to there, or right leg to left leg, but of what's been suffused into the brush from my leg into the earth. And what I want to do is kind of develop a sense of rooting, a sense of I'm extending into the ground, as opposed to I'm just here above the ground. In other words, a deeper, wider sense of base.
You're part of the ground.
Right, right. And I kind of think like when you put the brush down, particularly like watercolor or something, it might kind of, head out in a few, like roots, right? So let's try that. And then since you're a painter, you can tell me how none of that works as a metaphor. Actually, that's only with a wolf hair brush that we would. But shifting and then lifting. So now the brush is full of potential. Stepping, decide where it goes on the canvas, set it down, and then we allow it to release into the ground, into the canvas, into the paper, whatever we're painting. And what I want to do is try this just with your right leg stepping, so the left leg will keep the weight. So we'll try it again in a couple different versions. This will allow you to exercise the one side. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I should warn you a little bit because I'm on a new medication which makes me dizzy a lot. Which I find it's been bugging me for the last, I've been on it for about 8 or 9 days.
You're feeling it now, the dizzy, or?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying because
Sure.
you're going to do something and you realize that you're.
Well, I'll let you decide based on how you're feeling. Don't feel bad about interrupting me if it's time to sit. Or if you need me to help stabilize you, I'll come over too. So,
Just I'm a little bit tired. I'm hoping it'll wear off as I get used to it.
Yeah, maybe it will. I don't know. So the practice here we're going to be doing the same thing, but we're just not going to do it on each leg. So we're going to do it on the same leg a few times. So you'll get to develop some strength and endurance in your left leg. You'll get to practice moving your moving your right, but your right won't get a lot of weight bearing, which should allow you to do it a little more. I should do it the side you're doing. So weight comes onto the left leg, and then the right leg comes off the pallet, full of potential, soft. Step the heel down, set the foot down, the rest of the brush, and then build the root. And then just from there, we're just going to shift back. So you just come right back. So you won't have to transfer.
So I should be bending this leg. I'm not really bending this knee.
Your left knee was bent pretty good. Yeah. And then back. And then we can just return the brush to the palette. Doing a little lean. Once I bring it down, if I want to give myself a break, I can put some weight on the right leg and I could just stay here. So I've returned it to the palette, pick it back up, and I could step to the same spot, a little wider, a little to the side, whatever you'd like, and heel first, then roll the foot down, and then we kind of add the pressure, and that added pressure releases what's in the leg, like into the paper, into the earth. And then we'll return. So ideally, when we do this, we are just really keeping our weight on the left leg for a long period of time. I have this if I want to get a little support for my balance. But meanwhile, the challenge for me is just the endurance, the strength building of my left leg. And meanwhile, I'm getting movement practice, weight bearing practice, but not weight bearing duration for my right leg. So heel first, and then shift. That's a better shift. You didn't lean. That was good. And then come back. We'll do a little variation now since we've done it a few times. So we'll lift the brush from the palette, right, pregnant with what it's drawn up. We'll set the heel down. And then before we roll the foot, we're just going to pivot, turn the hip so it changes the angle of the foot. Doesn't really matter where, just to vary it. And then roll it down. Yep. And then give it weight. So I want to feel like there's two steps there. It's not this, it's roll and then weight and then the knee. Very easy for people to kind of do those together. Once I'm there, then I withdraw the knee, lift the foot, return it to the palette. Just occurred to me, you probably can't see my feet on all of this. Change the angle. I might have been cutting off the actual feet. That's better. So, shifting to the left, floating the heel, setting the palette, the brush down, and then from the hip, I turn. Either way I want, doesn't really matter. Then roll it down, and then as its own action, the knee finds the position over the ball of the foot. And developing a familiarity with that relationship is really key to balance. So it doesn't seem like a lot of work here. but to continually, particularly when you're unsteady or stepping in an uneven place, like, am I going through this? Foot's flat, no weight, knee finds the ball of the foot, the vertical relationship, then I know where my weight is. That's the key order. When it wherever it wants to go, doesn't really matter. Set it down, and then the knee tracks to the ball of the foot. Generally, the bigger the step people make after they bring their weight, when they want to move the other foot, that becomes an excuse for them to lean their upper body to get the other foot. So noting that if you happen to be practicing a longer step, if you find yourself wanting to lean when it's time to complete the other side of the step, it's probably an indication that you're stepping too broadly. Not that you were doing that just now. Up, heel. I'm focused on my hip here. Very easy just to turn your toes where you think you want them, or think about your foot. I want to turn my hip, then roll it down. And once I touch the floor, I'm not simply touching the floor, I'm feeling what's there. Right? It's not the cat's tail. It's not a patch of ice. It's not slippery moss, or like it's gonna bear my weight. And then, or it's not the hatch that's open. Right? So I'm feeling what's there, and then I determine I can give it my weight. And then in this case,